Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Amir. I'm doing another Goon profile. I am very excited to have Lewis on. How are you, Lewis?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. So you have been involved in this in quite a while, I believe, and your online name has changed over the years. Uh, Always the first question, when did you discover Gorgeous George? When and why did you go from a lurker to a goon? And if you wouldn't mind kind of giving us reference to maybe the different usernames you've had over the years so we can properly credit you on all your exploits.
Yeah, sure. I'll get into the usernames later. As far as getting into Gorgeous George, I used to browse something awful. I was never a member, but first thing I read was video game reviews, and then from there I went to Flash videos, and one of the Flash videos was the Gorgeous George remix, which was animated by Schmorky, I think it was. So I checked that out, and then that led to a rabbit hole of going down the something awful threads. Michael Rafferty and Dr. Quinn, and then that led to YouTube, to some people that had the Suck series basically.
Okay,
And
what? Oh, sorry, go on.
Go ahead, go ahead.
What was the content of that GG remix you first saw?
It was a song. It was just George quotes basically to a really techno beat.
Okay,
Um,
it sounds
I'm sh-
interesting.
I'm sure you've heard it.
So what were your thoughts when you first saw George?
Uh, I didn't know what to make of him at first. It was just I wasn't sure he was real. I was just kind of curious as to, like, just how much of it was real, how much was uh character. And then it didn't take me long to get into YouTube, and this is like 2009. So I made a few comments. Back then, I had I had two accounts. One was my username, basically, my last name, which was Calix, just written twice, CCAALLEEXX, and the other one was Son of a Batman, written properly.
Yeah, the son of a Batman is certainly a name many in this community are familiar with. Do you remember specifically what made you go from a lurker to a goon, or what your first kind of interaction directly with George was?
Um, I was lurking. I stayed a lurker throughout the whole something awful thing. I didn't want to pay $10, and not be sure what I was getting into. And as far as YouTube, I got in pretty quickly. That was either late 2008 or early 2009. And I'm sorry, what was the question again? Like, what
Oh, you're
made
good.
me?
Do you
Uh,
remember what your first content was on YouTube? I mean, how did you start like producing content? What type of video was it?
um, my first video was actually uh, some really weird. It was a product review, basically, of I think it was peanut butter Twix. That's what George makes reference to, the Twix bar.
Yeah.
So my brother popped in shirtless. So that was the whole, you know, that was a thing with George for a while. Oh, you got another guy coming in shirtless. That was my younger brother.
Okay. Is your younger brother at all interested in the GG saga?
No, no, he stays out of it.
So, If I may speak for the community, I think we'd really love to have you walk us through the experience of being involved in a GG lol suit.
Uh, I'm not gonna lie. Like when I saw it on Pacer, I was a bit nervous about it because I kind of that was like new ground. I obviously never had any legal action taken against me or anything like that. So so my first reaction was I freaked out, but then I just calmed down and said, what's the worst they can do? Make me take the videos down. So you
Yeah,
know,
I mean it's a pretty unique and strange experience. There isn't like another thing that's comparable to that if you haven't gone through it before. Uh,
right.
do you know exactly? Is there a specific thing that triggered you being involved in a lawsuit?
Um, I'm not sure what led him to name me specifically. Probably because I put my name out there. Um, Back then, like 2009, 2010, on your profiles you could put your name. So I kind of like didn't feel too concerned about what I had out there, so I just put my real name. So then,
Yeah, that kind of that matches up with what I imagine George's legal strategy is. Is just finding every name of everybody he doesn't like and throwing them in one lawsuit.
it looked that way. Um, but it was me and a bunch of video game characters because he couldn't get the real names. So he had like Gordon Freeman. I don't know if that was me or if that was mine or if that was in the next case after mine. I know there was a couple of characters from the game Snatcher, which I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, me
And then,
neither.
so
Do you
what?
think George will ever open up another lawsuit, or is he done?
Um, I don't think he's done. You would think he would be after what the second or third one he lost. I don't know. Maybe what's taken him so long is finding legal representation he can trust because he kind of like feels really betrayed by Michael Saunders.
Yeah, I mean, even going, I imagine after Saunders going to Craigslist or anywhere like that makes him pretty nervous and paranoid.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Although I don't, I just didn't know what he would expect. Going through like Craigslist or whatever he went through.
Yeah, I mean, certainly having a lawyer is very much a you get what you pay for
Yeah,
situation.
right.
Before we get more into George, I'd love to talk about your content in general. So, one of the many things you're becoming known for or are known for in this community are your impressions, which that kind of thing never ceases to amaze me just because I'm not very good at it. How is there any particular thing that, or how did you discover your ability to be able to do impressions?
Uh, it started with me like finding my voice, like hearing myself and not really liking what I heard. So I just felt compelled to just imitate others. I've always imitated people, even, unintentionally. So I couldn't, I didn't know how to answer questions at first. So I just repeated back at them. So, they'd be, oh, what's your name? So I just say, what's your name? Instead of telling them what my name was. And then when I got to the States from Puerto Rico, I started watching In Living Color and I got into that. And what really got me was the musical parodies. So I started, you know, trying to sound like them.
Well,
And
that's
then, go ahead.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So, what's your process of? doing a new impression?
Um, I play it in my head and I try to. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about how I sound like or how accurate the impressions are. So I just try to pay attention to like accents. Try to pay attention to how they talk, things like that.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
You
Uh,
know, like in the Australian accent, they tend to, I instead of I, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like things
yeah.
that catch my attention. And I was moving at that point, as a kid, I was moving from New York to Boston. So there are two distinct accents. And fun fact, the first accent I was ever picking up was the Boston accent. So my mom had me go work on that to not sound like a Bostonian.
Really? Yeah. Well, yeah, that I can definitely see how you can do impressions, kind of having that path growing up. Yeah. Do you go back to Puerto Rico at all?
Um, I've gone a couple of times when I was in the army, but I haven't gone back since. Like not to see family or anything.
Okay. On the topic of Gorgeous George, so you've followed him for a while, I believe, I assume, from what I understand. Uh, s- so over the course of his life, especially post something awful, if George's life were like a chess game, is there one move he's made that you can pick out as his critical blunder?
Uh, I'd say I'd say is his pride after not really working with the prank callers. Because he wanted to make the show about his skits or whatever. But on E-Bomb's World and YouTube, like they were super popular. But I think George didn't want to be known as somebody who was pranked. He wanted to be, you know, he wanted to be in control of the conversation. But I think, in my opinion, he should have just gone with the wind a bit. The wind is pulling you this way. Just kind of like roll with it.
Yeah, it's so ironic that all the things he tried so hard not to become and not to happen have become reality. So you yourself are a content creator. I mean, what advice do you have for people who, maybe this is a good thing for Roger to listen to. If you're trying to become a public content creator, how do you positively respond to criticism or trolling or anything like that?
Um, I don't want to say I ignore it. I do look at it, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't affect me at all, or that I don't think about it. I just try to I try to consider it as constructive criticism. Try to see where I'm going wrong. If it's like something overly like personal, I just ignore it. But if it's like, oh, you're here, you're asking to like one of my first videos I made was in Massachusetts when I was visiting a friend of mine at her dorm, and my camera, I had a digital camera which would kind of like let out a whine. So all my like 2010 videos all have this, So
Mm.
I would ask regularly, if you could hear me. So somebody was, getting on me for that, and I think that was to get it, to not to criticize, but just to annoy me, to throw me off. But I kind of took it,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does.
I'm certainly an advocate of constructive criticism. I've received it myself for my content, and it's been super helpful.
So then, Plus, I've been painfully shy like all my life, so I think I'm a harsher critic to myself than really anybody has been in YouTube.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fair point. Gorgeous George, you know, with all the trouble he has in maintaining long-term and close relationships, he does seem like he's found kind of a running mate in Watt. What do you think each of them gets out of their friendship with each other?
I'm not sure what Watt gets out of George, to be honest with you. Uh, I'm not sure what I'm not sure. Because I know with Roger, Roger's still working FM radio, even if it's in a volunteer capacity. So he has something to gain from that. And as far as what though, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, me
Just
neither, really. He is an enigma. Uh, since Roger is kind of a hot topic now, and I know you're all, I'm sure you all have been talking about it on Fieldens and everything. But yeah, do you have any opinion on the Roger versus Trolls saga that hasn't been shared?
no, I wouldn't say I have anything that hasn't been shared or is unique to me. I just I think a lot of people just think he should just, you know, go away. Not go away like get out of, doing his radio show, but he pays too much attention to it. Like when you called, what was it, last week or the week before?
Mm.
And you came in and you were asking legitimate questions. Like I would have just, if I were Roger, I would have just answered those questions, deadpan, just, just answer the questions as asked, like, oh, what do you think of so and so? George does this, George does that, and I would just say, well, I'm not too familiar with George. I don't condone sexual assault or rape, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. That's certainly all I was looking for when I asked the question.
And
Uh,
that would make it less fun, other than oh, I know it's Eugene. Hi Eugene, you're kind of you're poking the bear.
Yeah, I think Roger's just never gonna understand trolling. And on that subject, why do you troll?
Uh, I don't really consider myself a troll. I know this has been said quite a bit because I really only mess with Gorgeous George, and that was because he called me a son of a bitch, right? And he has problems with his article, so he says, "Oh, you're son of Batman, more like son of bitch, son of skin fluke." So I'm like, okay, it's on, and it's kind of been on ever since. I can't let this slide.
Yeah, so on some level, then it's fair to say trolling is an act of revenge if you're trolling somebody who's specifically attacked you.
I would say so.
Has George ever said anything about you that you feel crossed the line?
Uh, I wouldn't say cross the line, like he's never gone to my family or anything. But one thing that kind of annoyed me was, am I allowed to like say slurs?
Oh yeah, of course.
Um, he was talking to somebody else, and I just saw this comment like a, a week or two ago because he's never said this to me in person, publicly or. But he said he referred to me as a spick, so that
Yeah,
kind of like it's like wow, where did that
yeah.
come from?
Are you surprised he would use that language?
I shouldn't be, but I was because I hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen that word specifically used by George. So, that kind of surprised me a bit.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, the harsher slurs like that. I mean, even if it tracks with somebody's record, it still is. It's really jarring when you hear it for the first time, for sure.
Yeah.
Would you say trolls are obsessed, as George claims?
I could see where George gets that, but especially with large fan bases, they're not on there 24/7. It's almost like shift work. But would I say obsessed? I'm not even sure. I don't want to just flat out say no because maybe it is. Uh,
What would you say trolling obsession looks like? What are some of the symptoms?
oh, I have no idea.
Do you?
um
Yeah, that's fine. It's a hard question. I mean, do you consider yourself obsessed, and why or why not?
no, but then I don't think anybody who does this really considers themselves obsessed. I think that's one of those things that has to come from outside and not just the target of your trolling as it were, but from somebody else, like a neutral perspective. And I did have that happen in 2009. I was seeing the infamous Latalia, and she's like, "Why are you talking to this guy?" And it's like, I got her into it. I explained the whole history, and then she got into it for a bit. She was my camera person for a lot of my 2010 videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the one with the car and at that college campus. Yeah, that was her. I was
Oh,
in there. I was in a computer room with her once, and I have a whole bunch of other videos that I've made with her. But it's stuff like that. She got into it eventually. She understood.
for people who are getting into this for the first time, since there's so much content out there, do you have any advice for someone who wants to learn more about who George Yared is?
Yeah, I would just say watch his shows. Like try to do it. I don't want to say try to do it in a chronological order because really you've seen a couple. You've seen them all.
Yeah,
But he
that's
does.
very fair.
He lets out more of himself than he likes to admit he does. And reading the book kind of like confirms that.
Yeah, I'm really interested to know your opinion on this. So, on your Fielden's Friday nights, you've been rewatching, going through the old Gorgeous George shows. Have you learned anything new about George, or are you discovering anything new about him on the rewatch?
Um, Not really. Um, Although I want to say I know that's what that was the original intent of the show was, from what I remember, to try to see this from a new perspective, a different lens. But the main point is he is kind of a scummy person towards the women on his shows. Um, doesn't let Kevin talk for more than 2 seconds. I noticed a difference in Kevin between Gorgeous George Show Kevin and Kevin on his channel.
Yeah, what can you point or can you explain what the differences that you see in Kevin in his different videos?
Sure. With the show, I don't know how much prep goes into the Gorgeous George show, for instance, but Kevin looks like he just goes off the cuff, and that's good up until George decides he just wants to take a break, or he decides that he's just going to show up late, and Kevin is kind of left out there to his own devices, and that usually doesn't work too well.
Hmm.
And he'll stammer, and he's kind of like me in a way. If I don't know what I'm getting into, I kind of panic and I stop and I look and I try to assess the situation. And I'm not that great on my feet. And Kevin doesn't seem to be too good on his feet. But when he does these shows with uh, Mary Elizabeth or Keith Van Allen or Vince, I think knowing them for a while, I think helps too. But I also think there's a comfort level. It's more conversational, and that the whole flow of those videos goes so much better than Kevin, because Kevin in the Gorgeous Joy show is competing for attention. He's a side act. He doesn't want to be forgotten. Hey, I'm here, and so sometimes he'll annoy George. Just for that. Oh, look what Kevin did.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Kevin certainly always seems more in his element when he's doing, the Mary Elizabeth Variety Hour, Van Allen's Attic. Lewis, are you're attending? You're at least planning to attend GoonCon, is that correct?
Yes.
What What are you most?
Uh, I'm looking forward to meeting people. It's going to be my first time in Richmond. So I'm trying not to think about it because it's just, I get really nervous around a whole bunch of people I don't know. So I'll be in a new city with literally like nobody I've met in person before.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, I totally, I get the anxiety of that. Um, I'm pretty confident it's not going to be at all awkward in general once we all meet. I mean, I think transferring from talking online to talking in person will be pretty smooth for this group specifically. Are there any landmarks, locations that are on the must see for you?
Um, Honestly, the Comcast station. Um, I just want to see Richmond really in general. But as far as like must see places, I'd say the public access building, WCLM. Also, if I could possibly see, you know, where Roger's doing his radio work now, that'd be cool. And it's not, not in a really trolling way, just to see, take it in and just take a look around, really.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, these are, kind of abstract places that we only see through the internet. It's always really interesting when if you make that transfer and see it in person.
Right.
Lewis, that answers all of my questions. Is there anything else you want to talk about that I didn't bring up?
Yeah, I want to talk about getting into the show, the Fielding's Party Palace thing.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, please. So, yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong on the history. So, it was something Eugene and Meth had started, and they did that for a little bit, and then you joined on, and now you're a trio. Yeah, please do run us through that.
Yeah, that's how it started. With the I know I came on once for, I think, for Simon Impressions, and they liked my stuff. But I remember when we first talked on the Discord, I pointed out that I was kind of not uh not into my voice, and Eugene was like, "Oh, I'm sure you sound fine," something like that. And that's kind of like what planted the seed into like me starting to make videos again. You know, let me try this again. And eventually I did the impressions on the show. I just felt so comfortable there. And eventually he DM'd me here on Discord and he invited me on the show. I was like, yeah, yeah, I'll do it. Which is funny because in 2009, I never thought I'd be podcasting or streaming. I never thought I'd be doing this.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Uh, what I one of the things that's so great about Fieldens is the three of you. You have really great chemistry, and each of the three of you brings a really unique voice and skill set to the medium. I mean, is that just luck, or is there something to that?
I'd say we lucked into that. I was kind of like surprised at how well I gelled with both of them. I've heard them do some shows together and I know how they get on. I was kind of worried about messing up that chemistry, but I don't seem to have messed it up, thankfully.
No, no, I mean, you added to it. Yeah, it's a really dynamic chemistry you all have. Is there anything you're working on in the future of Fieldens, or any hopes for the future of Fieldens you feel comfortable talking on?
Um, as far as Fieldins, we kind of just on Thursdays at least we kind of just go. I don't even know what happens Thursdays. We don't really plan out like who we talk about Thursdays until Thursday, really, usually. So as far as the future, um, I'm sure we've talked about it, but I try not to like really think too much about it. You know, I've never had a big subscriber base. You know, I've just had this built-in base of you guys. And, you know, I want to thank all of you guys for continuing to support them and us. And also I want to thank you guys for supporting me. You know, I'm not special. You know, just when you guys say I'm an OG or whatever, like you it's like getting the thank you for your service talks, you know? It's like it's comforting. It's I appreciate it, but it's like no, I'm just regular guy, man. I'm just me.
Yeah, I mean, that's not false, but respectfully disagree. I think you're more than just a regular guy. You are an OG. Is there anything uh, you plan on doing with your own channel that you want to preview?
Um, it's not so much as a plug, but after what 12 plus years, I finally passed 50 subscribers.
Congrats. That's awesome.
So, I was surprised. I never thought that is something I really never thought about doing. You know, I never thought about doing this for anything more than fun. So 50 subs, you just even that seemed out of the question. So I hid my stuff, but my 50 subscribers special, so to speak, is just gonna be me going back through the 2009, 2010 videos and kind of laughing at myself
Oh, yeah, that's a really great idea. When's
and
that
just
coming out?
um I wanted to start it sometime after we talked because I didn't know like how this was gonna go and I didn't just want to repeat myself. But so probably sometime in the next week.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. We will really look forward to that, Lewis.
I appreciate it. So maybe like Tuesday, Wednesday, because Monday's Halloween and I want to do I don't know what I don't have anything planned for Halloween, but I want to just do that on Halloween. So maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll let it.
We
I'm compiling videos and just looking at myself and cringing.
that's always therapeutic in some way. Are
Yeah.
you are you dressing up as any GG lore character for Halloween?
Oh no, no, I wouldn't know who to dress up as, even if I even if I could do it.
I mean, with your impressions, I would vote for either Roger or Simon. Though if you went to a party, unfortunately,
Yeah,
nobody would probably get the
exactly.
reference.
Be like, who are you? Who is this? And then if I do the slow talk, they're just gonna think I'm a drunk John Wayne or something.
Which is not a great
E
costume.
Right, exactly. Your favorite soon to be podcaster. For $10 a month, you'll be getting more of me.
Yeah, who's gonna do that? 9.99 a month for the Rajcast. Come on, man.
Hey, maybe he has more of a rabid fan base than I know. I don't know of anybody who would do that. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is for anything, but fair point.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm completely ignorant out of it. Maybe Roger does have a fan
So,
base that I'm just unaware of.
that's a month of Spotify. That's like half a Netflix subscription, I don't know. I would do it from I wouldn't pay 9.99 for that, but maybe but also maybe he's I don't know if that's whatever Anchor FM. I don't know if that's an Anchor FM thing where it has to start out at 9.99. I would do it like $5 or maybe four.
Yeah,
And just I would build a fan base first. I don't think he has an actual fan base other than his
right.
trolls.
Yeah, I
And
I
he
don't think
can,
so either.
because he is. I'd say he's musically talented. Even though we roast him.
Yeah, I
He's
mean, I totally agree with what Eugene has said that like as far as playing a musical instrument, yeah, Roger knows what he's doing.
yeah, and having done it for 30 years, I think he'd be better off like if he wanted to do this podcasting thing. I think just going off and telling stories about how things went. I'm sure a lot has happened over 30 years. Or maybe you've met people, or maybe you've taken a liking to certain instruments, or nylon strings versus steel strings, like things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Roger probably has an interesting story to tell, but
And I think,
he's
yeah, and I think he can build a fan base off of that, and just playing stuff, playing stuff, and getting into say like musical influences. Like I would say things like that would endear him to legit fans.
and ignoring the trolls, right?
Right, yeah, ignoring the trolls would definitely help.
Well, best of luck to him on that.
Right.
Uh, well, Lewis, that's all I have. I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, sir. Uh, we're good, Mr. Dr. Amir.
I, yeah. When I saw you comment that on a video, I was cracking up.
Saw it because he said that and I just started laughing.
I
Yeah,
know.
Mr. Dr. Amir.
You know what? If you, I don't mean to put you on the spot if you don't want to do this because you're not some. I know you're not some performing monkey, but if you feel comfortable, would you mind closing out this podcast as Roger, thanking Lewis for being on here and wishing everyone a good day?
All right, yeah, I can do that. Let me down some NyQuil first. Okay. All right, well, this has been another episode of the Rajcast. I want to thank my special guest, Lewis Calix, I think his name is. And thank you, Dr. Amir for interviewing him on my behalf. So for the Rajcast, this is Roger, and I hope you have a Raj-tastic day. Roger out.